Mitch here with Steve Monahan and the Puck Dogs Sports Chat Place and PickDogs.com. Got round one of the NFL draft in the books. Of course, we were here live for about 2/3 of the first round. It took about 2.5 hours for the first round, first 20 picks, and we'll be back tonight. I'll be back at 7 o'clock Eastern time for some of round 2 and 3 action. We'll see how long I make it. Probably a little bit longer than yesterday, but we'll definitely cover a lot more picks. But I thought it was a pretty interesting first round. I think there's a lot of good players left on the board here, and this is where we see a lot of trading because there's a lot of guys that were considered first round talent that 15 plus deep on this board for round 2 and 3. Some of the guys are going to start to drop inexplicably, and other players will start to rise up in here. I don't know. There was a lot of shocking picks last night. Steve, what do you think was? First of all, good morning, and what do you think was the biggest? What was the biggest shocker out there for you?
I mean, if we're going to do the whole first round, I would say.
No, we're just going to go with the biggest shocker of the first round.
Maybe Henry Ruggs being selected before Judy by the Raiders, I would say.
How about you, Rod?
The Giants and their lovely pick.
That's up there. It's the big reach.
How about you, Chris?
Their lovely pick.
Yeah, I was going to say Andrew Thomas as well to the Giants.
To me, I'm not as shocked as Andrew Thomas for the Giants because he was considered, even by us, a top 10 pick. We had him toward the bottom of the top 10. He ended up in the top half of the top 10. I don't think that, to me, was the big reach. I just think there was a pick or two in there that just didn't even make sense. So, for me, CeeDee Lamb to the Cowboys was just really a head-scratcher all the way around. Not only was he not the best wide receiver available at the time, this is a team that just paid a guy to be a number one wide receiver in, not just on the team, the number one wide receiver. They paid him to be the number one wide receiver in the NFL. Then you say, well, we're going to use our draft pick because we really need help at wide receiver. I don't know, man. It's like, to me, when you're a team that is one win away from a playoff spot, you need to find that one player that's going to get you over the hump. And if you've paid a guy to be that player already, why are you getting another guy when you have so many other needs, especially on the other side of the ball? You have the highest paid running back. You have the highest paid wide receiver. You have a quarterback that's going to be in the discussion. And you draft offense again. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. This to me, and we live covered this. I said CeeDee Lamb was coming off the board right then and there because I know that Jerry Jones has a hard-on for Oklahoma, right? Hard-on, okay? I'm going to get Barry Switzer, right? That was his threat to Jimmy Johnson. I don't know. Steve, as a Cowboys fan, this kind of fits in line. Was this a Jerry Jones pick,
No, I think because Mike McCarthy is, the new head coach, I think McCarthy likes CeeDee Lamb. And I think McCarthy has to sign off on this to be, or influential. Now, Michael Gallup is nice. He's going into his third year. He's on the other side of Cooper. We lost Randall Cobb. We talked about Tavon Austin. Hasn't panned out. Wide receiver. Listen, I agree. There's other needs. I would have gone different than CeeDee Lamb. And to your point, I don't think he was the best wide receiver still available out there. But the pick is in, and But Oklahoma historically doesn't produce wide receivers like Alabama has. The last 10, 12 years. So, but that's the pick.
So when we look at Sean Lee, in the Cowboys defense. I'm just I haven't been overly critical of Sean Lee over the years, right? I haven't been. I've been pretty even keeled with Sean Lee. But here's a guy that plays 3 games a season. Okay, let's call it what it is. Okay, here's a guy that plays 3 games a season, and when he goes down, usually they act shocked, like they have nothing there to replace him. Now they've put together a nice core of linebackers to go with them. Van Der Esch, I don't know if he was worth that, another head scratcher of a pick to me, but Jalen Smith is probably going to end up being one of the better values, that they've ever drafted because they went defense high. And you put somebody with him like a Chaser, to me, Sean Lee is a serious problem there because, like I said, there's no depth there behind these guys. I just don't see it. So do you think that as a Cowboys fan, do you think Aldon Smith is going to come back and be like this beast or something? I don't know. You lost to the Jets.
Convincingly, too.
Yeah. You lost every road game you played. CeeDee Lamb is going to make you a playoff team? I just don't see it. I think there was other impact guys there. I think that was the worst pick. I'm not saying he was the worst player picked in the first round. I'm going to say that was the worst pick of the first round. Because the Giants, they needed it. So if they take Wirfs there, right, we're all okay with it. The fact they take Andrew Thomas, this guy could end up being a 12-year All-Pro. I mean, he has the tools. He's a little raw, right? He's certainly not as big a reach as Becton, by the Jets.
It definitely fills a need for the Giants.
He definitely fills a need, but he's definitely a little more of a project. But he probably has a high end, and that's probably what Gettleman saw there. I mean, Gettleman has been tough to figure out for a while here. I mean, I don't understand the Daniel Jones pick. I was saying this last year about that. But I don't understand the CeeDee Lamb pick. I think he is, he's a good player. Obviously, he played in a wide open offense, with Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks year after year. He doesn't have one of those. He doesn't have anything remotely close. I don't know.
30. That was a waste of a damn pick.
So Rod's
way better on the board.
Rod's can't miss guy was Jordan Love. Okay, this was his guy, can't miss. Now he goes to the Packers. Okay, the same team that thought that Deshaun Kaiser might be an answer when Aaron Rodgers went down. So they traded into the first round to get this guy. And when you do that, that means you really wanted this guy. Their move in that draft was they really wanted this guy. They really saw something. Now, Aaron Rodgers, not, maybe a quiet guy, whatever. You don't, see him as much or whatever. But my guess is he's absolutely fuming. Not that they've drafted a guy to replace him, because they did the same thing when they drafted him, right? And it's like, he sat, and it's different people. But like we were talking when we were on the air, and this happened after we were on the air. But I started talking when we were on the air. I'm like, we've seen these same moves by these same teams over and over and over again. The faces change, the uniforms have changed in some cases, the coaches have changed, the players have changed, but we're seeing the same thing over and over again. How do you think of Jordan Love's fit in the Packers, Rod? I mean, Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago, opening night against the Bears, it looked like he was going to be gone for the season. I believe he played the whole season with a broken leg and didn't say anything. I believe he did. I think it will come out later that Aaron Rodgers played that entire season with a broken leg.
I like Love. I think he's going to be a good QB in the NFL, but him in Green Bay, didn't see that coming. Definitely did not see him going to Green Bay.
Well, Utah State.
But
So
I think,
he's played in the weather, too.
yeah.
So it's like, I
So
mean, he is a logical fit there. He played in the weather. He does have the mobility, like they like. He's tough. They
yeah.
like that. Green Bay, they have a certain, the fans have a certain mentality there, and you kind of have to live up to that. In Dallas, it's like, I mean, they're probably used to having a guy come in that looks like, oh, right, we got CeeDee Lamb. It's kind of like we got Deion Jordan. It's kind of like our thing. It's this Jordan Love pick. I just think that it's just such a tough one to swallow. I think if you're a Packers fan, it really depends on what happens, over the next couple of days too. But it'd be interesting to see. I don't know what the Packers draft. What do they have today and tomorrow? Let's see. My guess is they had to give Miami something to move up to that spot.
They pick at 30. It looks like
Today, 30?
Or sorry, 30 down to so 62nd.
And then so they have 30 today, and then what do they have? That's it?
And then the same spot in the third round.
All right, so the bottom half of the second and the bottom half of the third now. So this is a team that is a CeeDee Lamb away from possibly going somewhere. But they also need help at linebacker too, and I don't know what their situation is. We'll take a look at it's easy to sit here and be critical, but I mean, I watch a ton of football, and it's like some of the stuff, it just doesn't even make any sense to me. I just don't. It just, how hard is this? How hard is this? It was like this Josh Rosen discussion, 2 years ago. It's like, how hard is this to see that this guy does not care? It's like, he does not care. It's like, you can have a guy who's got moderate skills, that cares a lot, that can be a great player. Like, I have to say that one of the guys who I think is overrated, who's a great player, is overrated, but he cares, is Joey Bosa, right? Here's a guy who cares, right? He cares. He might not have cared in college, right? He walked out on his teammates, but when you see him playing the 49ers, he cares. George Kittle, he cares. David Pollock, when he was drafted by the Bengals, he cared, And it's like, you have a guy like Josh Rosen. I mean, this guy is Jay Cutler. He does not care. It's just like, why are you guys mad? Oh, we lost? Oh, all right. It's like, you don't want some pizza? It's exactly, you need to have these type of players, on your team. And, Aaron Rodgers, he might not be the guy who, I think that he probably doesn't get along with his teammates the way that everyone would think that he does. He's probably not like Tom Brady is, but he hasn't had as much to work with either. I mean, he's got Geronimo Allen,
Yeah.
I mean, at least the Patriots went out and tried to sell their soul for Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon. At least tried to get Brady Hill. It's like, yeah, we'll give you Geronimo Allen, and we'll give you like Jimmy Graham. Like really, we're not talking about the end of his career. We're talking about his career ended, 3 years ago. So, so I think Troutman is, and Steve had Chase Claypool going here. I think Troutman is the other guy who I think the Packers have to seriously be looking at here. You can't not get him any help. But on the defensive side of the ball, the Packers are stuffed also. I mean, they got run over in San Francisco. They got absolutely crushed. When we look at the depth chart in Green Bay, Christian Kirksey, Oren Brooks, Preston Smith are the linebackers. Preston Smith, but these are, Dean Lowry, Kenny Clark, Tyler Lancaster, Preston Smith, Christian Kirksey, Oren Brooks, Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, and Kevin King. That is the Packers' starting defense. Anyone name where 3 of those guys went to college?
No.
No, you
None of
can't.
them are named Ray Nitschke either.
Yeah, but I think that even look at the offensive side of the ball. So Sternberger is tight end. Mercedes Lewis, God only knows what this guy's going to do. He's Devontae Adams, their only viable option. Alan Lazard is listed as the second wide receiver, and Devin Funchess, when he becomes your second best option, it's going to be tough to win. They also lost their tackle. I mean, there's a lot of places you can go. So it'll be interesting to see what the Packers do with the rest of their draft. Are they building for the future and packing it in for now? In which case, my guess is Aaron Rodgers is going to say, I want to trade, and this is what they're going to say to him. You should have thought about that when you signed that stupid-ass contract with us. When you demanded that ridiculous contract where you took all the money up front and all the money, as is instead of deferring. Because no one can afford that contract within their salary cap. There's no team. And that's why he has no supporting cast in free agency. But it doesn't justify that draft pick. I think if you're going to take that draft pick, you have to trade away your next year's number 1 for it. Not a pick where you need immediate help. I wonder if the Dolphins would have gone for next year's number 1 from the Packers. It had to be better than. There's only 2 spots. It could have been worse then. That would have made it worse. You would have had a pretty good shot for it to be a better pick than where it is now. Plus, they have, I believe they already have the Texans pick next year for first round as well, and their own pick. So they'd have 3 picks again in the first round, the Dolphins. I don't know, man. I don't know what these guys are thinking. Chris, any other head scratchers out there for you? I know you had a lot of guys that so your boy Murray from Oklahoma goes to the Chargers, and you see the Chargers in the war room there, and you kind of say to yourself, well, this is how you go from 12-4 to 4-12, right? They traded into that spot to get that pick with your Patriots, who could have had Jordan Love in that spot, and it all kind of fell apart at the seams for you all at once. Are the Patriots looking to tank it in and take Trevor Lawrence next year? Because that certainly was what it looked like there to me. What do you think?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say that. I think they maybe have their eyes set on a Jake Fromm in these later rounds. I don't think maybe
Eason
Jordan
is
Love.
guy. To be honest, I think it's Eason, but that's me. But
yeah, I don't know. I think that they have a plan for these later rounds for a quarterback. It wasn't wasn't mandatory that they go for a quarterback in the first round. They're not going to hit the panic button.
Yeah, but Jordan Love was a talent that the Packers. I mean, they traded up, like they had to.
I mean,
and a lot of people said this was Rod's can't miss guy. A lot of people loved Jordan Love. Said the word you hear about Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, right? That's the word you hear. Yeah. He is Patrick Mahomes.
I think that's why Green Bay traded up, because I think New England was going to take him.
No, the pick was New England. New England had already picked. When they traded up, New England's pick was 23. This Love was taken at 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible that New England was maybe going to move back into the first round, but Miami wasn't going to trade with them. No. That wasn't going to happen.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers always complained that the Packers never used a first-round pick on him on offense. So the one time they do is when they select his heir to the throne.
So, well, Mitch, what do you think about Henry Ruggs being selected before your boy Judy?
I think that like I said when the draft when he was drafted is that he's Judy is a route runner and he's a guy that's going to be around for a long time. Ruggs is fits the Tyreek Hill mold and he's a game breaker and he's a playmaker and all those great things. I think you're splitting hairs there and it matters what you want. I think Ruggs is the faster guy and I think he's kind of the guy that can create the big plays and I think that's what the Raiders need. And I think if they get Jerry Jeudy there, basically they're getting an Amari Cooper who's just with a lot more heart, probably maybe a better version of Amari Cooper. I think with Ruggs, you're getting a guy that's a game breaker, and and that's probably what they saw too. And John Gruden throughout his coaching in the past. He never really had a guy like that. He never had like a Darren Sproles or like a Kamara type. Every team has this guy now. This is like the new slot position. I thought that's why I said when we did our mock draft, I thought Ruggs would have been a good fit with the Cowboys. I thought that a slot guy for them, like Ray Gore, and they were talking about CeeDee Lamb in the slot where he caught 30% of his passes, and it's like I think he's a little big for that role, but. And he's also not fast enough for that role. But I've been wrong before. I've been wrong plenty. I've been right plenty. But it's I just think that
We all have.
the Cowboys, while we could look at the wide receiver that didn't get them to the playoffs this year, it was Cole Beasley who caught those third down passes because Amari Cooper is not going to do that. Amari Cooper disappeared in the big games. And, you could say Amari Cooper disappears in the big games, but if your best wide receiver disappears in the big games, in the big moments, that usually means that somebody else is open. Your wide receiver disappears not because he stinks, because they've got double coverage on him and triple. That means somebody else is single covered or wide open. So, the issue that you have is your tight end is 75 years old, so he's no longer really a threat. So they can leave him wide open, right? So it doesn't really matter anymore. When you're when it's like he might catch the pass and he might get a first down, but he ain't gonna beat you, and that's a problem because everybody else's tight end is, So Amari Cooper, when he's double covered like that, Cole Beasley catches that 8-yard third down pass over the middle, and it looks like he's getting killed out there, right? Which he is, But look, he played that same role for the Bills this year, and they were a playoff team. Coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think Cole Beasley is like this Hall of Fame guy or whatever that's going to get that thing, but it's like he's that guy, He's the guy. So when you look at like the Craig Erickson Miami teams, which were the great ones like in college, right? And they had that guy, right, who on third down and 8, it was like, yeah, we could hit this guy, Michael Irvin down the sideline. We had this guy too. But it was Rod Chudzinski, with the 8-yard, boom, vacuum hands. Boom, and everybody has that guy. Phil Simms had Mark Bavaro. A lot of times it's a tight end. Antonio Gates has been that guy, but Cole Beasley was that guy for the Cowboys. And it's like they tried to replace him with Ryan Switzer, who I thought was, he still could go either way. He's had a pretty good career, outside of his time in Dallas. He's been good, They weren't afraid to throw him the ball in Pittsburgh, and now I believe he's with Gruden, right? So, he might be available again. So, I don't know. To me, the Ruggs pick makes some sense. I think they're better wide receivers. It's kind of like Andrew Thomas. It's like there's better guys. There's guys that are easier picks, whatever. But I think that with either of those guys, you can't go all that wrong that you could with CeeDee Lamb, who not only is he not a sure thing, he's also not really a need position unless he plays in that slot, which is 30%. Anything else? Any other? I mean, I could sit here and I go through all the picks. I thought the Cesar Ruiz draft pick was the most emotional moment of the night. I thought the Isaiah Wilson moment was the funniest moment of the night, where his mother picked his girlfriend up off of him and moved her to the side. That was funny.
Hey, Baltimore hit a home run. Patrick Queen.
Yep.
Standard Raven player. I think that's a home run first round pick.
So I had Gladney in the first round also. The Niners ended up taking him. And Hilaire, the first running back taken over DeAndre Swift, over Dobbins. I thought that was it's once again, it's just a guy that fits what they do. And Hilaire kind of is Brian Westbrook, maybe a little sturdier version. But he kind of, Andy Reid loves those guys. Loves them. Undersized backs that can catch out of the backfield. I mean, Andy Reid invented that. Remember, the year that, I think it was Westbrook had more, receptions of 3 yards and less than he did of carries that season. The Eagles threw 70% of the time, but most of the passes were 3 yards or less. I think he kind of fits that mold for them. Probably a little,
True.
He was tough. He's tough to bring down. So once again, it's one of those things where it's not like Earl Campbell was there, or it's not like Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram. Derrick Henry, you have to remember, he was not drafted all that high either. He slipped through. It was I couldn't believe it. They got him in the third round or something. Another one of those head scratchers.
Yeah.
It's he just ran over everybody, and it's
Yeah.
I mean, how hard is this? Come back to some of these first round picks when we start talking about the second round now. So we have, so obviously teams with needs in the second round. The big one, early here in the second round. So the Patriots are in at 5 here. So this could be where the Jacob Eason pick goes. Chris?
Something funny I watched before the show. I was looking at this 5th quarterback selected, and I was looking at the odds, and they had Eason at minus 105 before we started the show. That line has now moved to Hurts at minus 115, and they've got Eason at plus 110.
I do not like Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Move.
Sorry. I just don't.
Neither do I.
No, but the way the line moved looks like somebody knows something.
We'll have to tell you one thing. We'll talk about these NFL props, draft props. Outside of the first 3 picks, the Jeff Okudah and this will be the order of the first 3. Outside of those, it was bombs away on those NFL draft picks. There wasn't one that was bigger, that was shorter odds than plus 300 all night. Henry Ruggs was plus 300. Hilaire was plus 1,800 to be the first running back taken. It was outside of those guys and Herbert and Tua and really those first 6 outside Andrew Thomas. It was bombs away on those props.
Yeah, so
bombs away. Man.
I'm thinking you got to take Eason at plus 110. Who's next? Well, they have Fromm at plus 625. You think he goes before everybody else?
So the Colts have not had a pick in this draft. They signed Philip Rivers, and they've been pretty busy this offseason. They got DeForest Buckner. They've gotten they've added help at wide receiver as well, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's take a look at the Colts, because we have not heard from them in this draft. So the Colts, Paris Campbell, a guy who I like, but he was injured a lot. I thought Paris Campbell was a guy. So if he ends up fizzling out, he's my guy I was dead wrong about, because I thought he was like kind of, for me, the year that he came out, I thought he was one of the best players available. Kind of can do it all. He's one of those guys that just seems to always be open, right? But I thought the Colts went out and got help, but I guess they didn't. And then I don't know. So the Colts have Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, and Chad Kelly as their quarterbacks. You think they're maybe looking at Eason too? Maybe they're looking at Hurts. Maybe that's
That's what I don't know. There's something there because they had Eason minus 105, and all of a sudden now he's plus 120.
I mean, Jalen Hurts is a good kid, had a good college career. I just don't see him translating to be a starting NFL quarterback.
because he has trouble throwing the downfield ball, and the way that he creates.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Well, what we saw this past season in the NFL is that Lamar Jackson was criticized, right? Because coming into the season when he was drafted, that he doesn't have the big arm, right? That he's a little bit of a floater, and he is. But the thing is, and all those things are true, but what they didn't account for is that he's so fast is that everybody has to rush up to the line to stop him, and basically he's throwing it to wide open guys down the field. And I think with Jalen Hurts, a lot of the same things at Oklahoma, with CeeDee Lamb. He did a lot of those same things. At Alabama, he did the same things, but in a tougher conference defensively. And, maybe with not as wide open as an offense as he had at Oklahoma. That's why Gundy called, Jalen Hurts a glorified wishbone quarterback. He said, this is the wishbone, what they're running. It's a wishbone, with throwing option. I don't know. I don't love Hurts, but, we've seen some crazy picks.
Colts second pick. I think they take Higgins if he's on the board.
So the Giants are back.
That's why I think it.
When we look at the best availables, maybe try and see where these guys fit. So let me see if I can get both up on the screen here. Try and put the best availables in the draft order. Because there is a lot of good players out there. There is.
Well,
here are the players that ESPN lists as the best available, and I think we'll probably have to get a couple pages deep to find our best available. But Xavier McKinney, a guy that we kicked around, first round. So the Dolphins are picking fifth in this, or seventh in the first round. So McKinney is a guy who could possibly pop up. The other guy, Dobbins, who I like, who's listed as the fifth best player available on the board. The next player that they list is Deandre Swift. So the Dolphins could end up with him as well. The next, Ezra Cleveland, the offensive tackle out of Boise. A lot of people had him projected higher than where he went, where he will go. Russ Blacklock from TCU is a beast of a defensive tackle. Gary Patterson's, I don't think anyone ever was going to question, Gary Patterson's defensive tackles. We've seen them in the NFL. And they are you definitely want one of those. Ask any Bills fan and Panthers fans. Dobbins, Antoine Winfield. So another guy that the Dolphins could be looking at. So what we've seen so far in just the first 6 players that are available is that 2 running backs, 2 safeties. So we already have overlap here. An offensive tackle and a defensive tackle. So we go back and say, so the Bengals pick next. Where do they need the help?
A lot of holes like every other team.
Yeah, well,
Someone tells me they pick Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State.
I'm gonna go with T. Higgins from Clemson on that one. Just a hunch.
I'll go with the lineman too, Chris. They just drafted Burrow, so it probably makes sense to get a solid offensive lineman.
AJ Green missed the entire season last year.
I know receiver is a need, no doubt.
They've had good wide receiver cores in the past. They've won with those. So, how about the Lions at 3? Okay, so they took Okudah. So that's where Blacklock goes if he doesn't go before
Not
that.
the Colts.
Because they were talking about Derek Brown in that spot. So if they can get Blacklock there, my guess is that's where they take him. Then
Don't the Colts pick before Detroit?
Yeah, they did. We already did that. We already kind of went through the Colts up and down.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Kind of said Jalen Hurts or maybe Eason or, kind of kick some names around there. Kick the tires on them. Steve, the Giants at 4?
I think they can take Zach Bond there.
Another offensive lineman.
Linebacker.
Zach Bond.
I think they
Wisconsin.
Zach Bond. Yeah, that's what I.
Or Chris's other guy that he loved, Espinosa, right?
That's who I was going to say. AJ Epinesa.
That's not a bad pick.
I think the other guy that they could take here is Gross Matos from Penn State.
Yeah, that's not a bad one either.
It's kind of a Giants thing. Kind of,
Yeah.
Kind of Penn State to the Giants. It's all good. Gettleman gets 2 hours to himself.
I think the Bengals take that guy. I think Matos goes to the Bengals. I can see the Bengals taking him. I don't think he'll be left on the board. I think he goes first.
So next up is going to be the Patriots, and I'm going to say it's going to be Jacob Eason right there.
Yeah, which is what I think. So I think that bet is good. The 5th quarterback pick, Eason at plus 110. Eason under 49.5. I think that's 2 good bets. I like that. And then you take Hurts over 55.5 at a huge plus bomb. Because I don't see him going early.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a fake out. Bodog and their fake out going, here, look at this. We think this guy's going to go. Come on, bet that guy.
Then that's why I'm kind of going to box. I'm going to take Jake Fromm as well. I'm going to put some money on him going first as well.
I think it's too early for Jake Fromm. That's just me.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's just me.
3rd round.
I think if the Patriots trade out of that spot, which is always a possibility, I think then they're looking at Jake Fromm. If they pick there, it's Eason. If they trade out, it's Fromm. I've been critical of Eason, but if he gets the right quarterback coach, he might be okay. And he certainly has a way bigger cannon than Fromm, much bigger. We saw it in that Tennessee game, the 1 year he played at Georgia. I mean, that last 2 minutes of that game was unbelievable. Joshua Dobbs and Eason put on a show on that one. Then we got the Panthers at 6. So the Panthers, they went with Derek Brown in the first one.
What about T
Higgins if he's there, but I think T Higgins is gone. In my
I was going to say Denzel Mims.
Say Christian Fulton, cornerback. LSU.
I think Michael Pittman out of USC is my guy. I would love Dolphins got him. I think to me of the guys that are left on the board, Pittman is one of the can't miss guys. There's also Antoine Winfield in here in the mix. Then the Dolphins, and I think it's going to be Dobbins personally, if he's there. If DeAndre Swift is there, it's going to make it a tougher choice.
Swift's still there. I think they take Swift over Dobbins.
Jonathan Taylor.
I think it's going to be Dobbins.
Taylor's there. I'm going with Taylor.
I think I'd rather have Dobbins. I'm big on Dobbins. I've been down on him for so long when I was just in that postseason. In that second half of the season this year, plus, you need that guy, who can get that, 7-8 yard carries, man. It's going to help. It helps your whole team. Your defense gets a rest. And he has that upfield cut move that I think is just it's rare. You don't see it anymore. It's more the guys that are the Le'Veon Bell were kind of doing this, But this guy, it's just one single move and he's up. I like it. Of course, I'd way rather have it if Etienne was available. He'd be my guy. Then the Texans finally hit the board here. So the Texans traded DeAndre Hopkins. So they, if Higgins is there, another Clemson wide receiver, then they go back to the drawing board. It's like,
yeah, right.
That would make for an interesting thing, but I think I can't see that happening. Then the Cleveland Browns are up, and so the Browns always make a pick that makes no sense whatsoever. So if Swift is available, even though they have Nick Chubb, they'll take Swift in that spot.
They might take him, just for
because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We're just a player away.
That's the genius of their drafting.
So the Jaguars got a lot of good players left here.
Grant Delpit's still available.
Grant Delpit is still available. Josh Jones, the tackle out of Houston, still available. Who I thought the Dolphins were possibly going to take in the 18 spot. I honestly think that also if the Bengals don't take a wide receiver there, which I do think they are going to take, I'll stick to the Higgins pick there. But I think if they don't, I think they take Josh Jones from Houston. I think that's the tackle that they take. Not Ezra Cleveland. I think Ezra Cleveland will be a guy that drops. I think also, so there's a few tight ends here that are available too. One is Cole Kmet, and the other one is Troutman. So Troutman played at Dayton, so he's kind of like, that's the knock on him, is he's played against really soft competition, but when he played in the Senior Bowl, he looked pretty good. Which you can't go a ton off the Senior Bowl, but let's just say Jerry Rice had a monster East-West Shrine game. And so it's like sometimes that's all you really have to go by. Troutman, I think what I liked about Troutman in those spots was that it was sort of like Kittle, where he doesn't mind fighting for the ball. And I think that's what this NFL is these days, right? One guy's got it, the other guy rips it away. It's more ripping of the ball than I ever remember, right? It's like that used to never be a thing. Now it's like they're always ripping at the ball.
It's being taught.
It's being taught.
So then you want Mims. Mims is a ripper of the ball away. He led the league with the nation with contested catches. He's going to be up here in the mix.
The Raiders have no second-round pick. The Jets are at 16 of the second round. The Dolphins are back in also at 24 of the second round. So they've got a ton.
I think the Dolphins have they got the most picks of anybody on top of
they
their
have
cachet
of picks. It's a pretty good draft to have a ton of picks. There haven't, when you look back at all the drafts, and we went over a bunch of them, and I know it was really some not so entertaining video. We went over a lot of drafts, and it's rare that you have the Troy Aikman draft. Those drafts don't happen. It's like we talk about all these guys like they're the answer. Half these guys are going to fizzle out, and then half the guys taken are going to be the Tom Brady, Zach Thomas picks.
I've seen the stat or number that only 14% of the first round picks hang in the NFL.
Yeah, I believe it.
That seems low, but
it's that's
not a lot.
Yeah, well, the year that Troy Aikman was drafted, look at the top 5 in that draft and tell me that tell me that they fizzle out there. That was the draft.
It's funny.
What year was that?
Day 2 players make up
89.
Here it is. In fact, former first rounders made up only 14.3% of NFL rosters entering the 2019 season. Day 2 players made up 22%.
So here was the top 5 picks of the 1989 draft. Troy Aikman went number 1. He's a Hall of Famer, multiple Super Bowl champion. Number 2 was Tony Mandarich by the Packers, right? The bust-out steroid guy, okay, who was seen as the greatest offensive tackle in the history of college football, by the way, coming in. But look who they passed on, right? You want to talk about the Sam Bowie pick. Look at this one. And it wasn't just Jordan, right? So number 3 was Barry Sanders. Okay, so it was Michael Jordan, went at 3. Then at 4 was Derek Thomas, another Hall of Famer. And number 5, Deion Sanders, the greatest cornerback in the history of football at any level. Probably the best athlete to ever play in the NFL. Arguably him and Bo Jackson. You could go back and forth, but I would say Deion Sanders had a longer career, so he might have been a better athlete. But to me, that's the draft, top 5 picks of a draft that all other drafts will be forever compared to, because you don't see that often. You see the Mandarich, you see the number 2 pick overall fizzling out a lot, because a lot of times it's 2 quarterbacks. It's Rick Mirer, it's Ryan Leaf, it's Carson Wentz.
All right.
I know the Eagle fans, they hate their guts. I don't care, man. It's like, I know that. Every time I say that, they hate me. I know it. It's all right. So, what's the biggest surprise here for round 2, Steve? Who's your round 2 guy? Like, who's the best guy out there? Like, who's the guy that's going to be the Tom Brady or the Zach Thomas or the Randall Cunningham?
I'm a Grant Delpit guy. I think this guy is going to be pretty good. So I'm going to say Grant Delpit for the second round. Whoever gets him, that's my guy.
The Dolphins took Sammy Smith in that Troy Aikman draft.
Sammy Smith.
Steve Atwater was in that draft. So that was the Steve Atwater, also Louis Oliver. The Dolphins had 2 picks.
Right.
The Dolphins must have gotten that pick in a trade for the number 9 overall because they were good back then. Cleveland Gary. Bobby Humphrey. Doesn't Humphrey's son play? He's on Alabama too, right? He's really good.
I think you're right.
He's really,
Yeah.
really good. I think he's
Yeah.
defense, and he's actually better than his father, who was a
I
first round
think
pick.
so.
Yep. Bill Hawkins from Miami. A lot of Miami busts in here. Giants took Brian Williams, and Joe Wolf was taken by the Cardinals. Hartley Dykes, remember him? There's a Patriots bust first round
Oklahoma
pick
State,
right there. Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State bust. Yeah.
Eric Metcalf wasn't bad. Oh, and this was the draft where Mel Kiper said, it's become apparent that the New York Jets have no idea what they're doing when it comes to the NFL draft. This was the Jeff Lockerman draft. That was, I mean, but when you look at, just most, Tom Ricketts is in this draft and, Sean Collins, but the Falcons took in the first round. So you see all the busts. But man, when you see Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders, and Derek Thomas all in the same draft and all in the top 5, it was like those were guys that were dialed in. I'm going to guess that Gil Brandt did that draft for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Gil Brandt was the
He was
first
still
guy to use computers to pick. All right,
That's
so
right.
who's going to be the surprise today, Chris? Who's it going to be?
Well, for me, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say it's either Jake Fromm if he goes to New England, even though I know you guys said he's too early, or I think Adam Troutman might go in the second round as well.
I think Troutman's a mover as well. I'm with you there. Rod, who's your guy today? Who's your day 2 guy?
I like McKinnon. I liked him day 1. I still think he's going to be a really good safety. I don't know where he's going to end up or where he's going to drop, but I really like McKinnon.
Yeah, McKinney too.
All right.
I think they both pan out, McKinney and Delpit. I think they're going to be good pros, both of them.
All right, so here's my guy, and this is who the Cowboys should have waited out for. Is KJ Hamler of Penn State. Okay. He's not. I mean, I already said my other guys, the guys who I had in my first round, Matos and all these other guys that I already know, McKinney, Delpit. I like all those guys too. But I think when you start looking at the guys deeper down the chart here, KJ Hamler is another Tyreek Hill. I think KJ Hamler and Ruggs is a coin flip between those two. I do. Hamler, when he went out for Penn State against Ohio State, it was like they couldn't do anything. And when he was in, it was like he was a one-man band at Penn State. He is exciting to watch. I like him a lot. I like him like a son. KJ Hamler. So to me, him, and I think at running back Zach Moss out of Utah. We talked about him a lot in the previous stuff. It's tough to say because the Pac-12 usually wide open, and then Marlon Davidson from Auburn, the defensive end. I could see him going to the Cowboys, or see a team similar to that needs help on the pass rush. Auburn had a sick defensive line. I mean, Derek Brown has gotten, rightfully so, a ton of accolades, but it wasn't just him. They were pretty loaded on the defensive line. So I like him. Those will be my guys that I like. I think the bust is going to be Cole Kmet. Anyways, Chris, let's talk sim games. Let's hope we get no glitches.
Yeah, so we've covered the other 3, but I'll just go
Wait,
over
hold
them
on
again.
a second. We got a comment here. To me, this is why the Packers stay good, 13-3, still investing. No. This is a team that got run over in the playoffs. They got run over. The team that they need to get through. So in the NFC, the 49. I always say you're the champ until somebody knocks you off. So right now in the NFC, the team that you got to knock off is the 49ers. We know Super Bowl losers generally do not come back the next year and all of a sudden are like, oh, we're going to come get you now. It used to happen back in the day, like the Dolphins when they got blitzed by the Cowboys, went unbeaten. The next year, the Cowboys got beat by the Colts. Again, it's like that sort of stuff. The Chiefs got beat by the Packers. They came back. It's like these things happen then, but they don't happen now. It's the teams that lose the Super Bowl, like the Falcons. They've been a mess ever since, right? The Rams, they didn't make the playoffs again after losing to the Patriots. It's because free agency and all this other stuff, the guys just move too fast. You can't afford to keep a team together that's not, especially one that didn't win. Even if you do win, when you reach that level of success, keeping your guys together, very, very, very difficult because everybody wants to get paid, and they should because the careers are so short. But I just think that the Packers made a decision that they're not going to be good this year, and they're going to hang Aaron Rodgers out to dry for that contract. They're mad at him. That's really what that draft pick said to me. So I got to disagree with you, even though we love you and we appreciate your comments. I just think that the Packers are still mad about that Aaron Rodgers contract. They're going to say, you wanted that contract, this is what you get. Tom Brady wins because he negotiates his contract in a way that's favorable for his team.
True.
And it's not like Aaron Rodgers does it. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers should take less money. I'm not saying that he should do that at all. I'm saying that the deferred payments and the way that they manipulate the salary cap is the way that he has to do it. And it's not like he doesn't have. If you've ever seen the show Broke. If you've never seen it, I suggest it. I know everybody's inside, so this is a good time to watch it. It's on ESPN 30 for 30s. I think it might not be. It might have been before the 30 for 30s, but it's one of those shows, and it's called Broke, and it's about all these professional athletes, and because there used to not be rookie salary caps, on NFL players. So these guys used to get, like Steve Young signed like a $78 million contract out of college. I mean, that's what they used to get, $50 million, $78 million. And that's why they put these salary cap on rookies, because it's like you're paying your Keith McCants, who doesn't even play on your team, $20 million a year or something. So that's why the cap.
I think Sam Bradford was the last one to cash in before they changed the rules.
Yeah. But when you see Broke, you kind of see exactly how it all goes down. And they even say, even the guys that were superstars like Andre Rison, he's like, yeah, like four of us make that really big money. He's like, everyone's making money. He says, but there's only 3 or 4 guys on the team that are making really big money. It's that, showing up with the new Ferrari every day, type money. Like Cespedes was doing with the Mets there for a while. It's like,
right.
That kind of money. In baseball, there's a lot of guys that make that kind of money. But in football, there's not. There's just a few guys on each team that make that kind of money. And it needs to be, you need the best teams like the Patriots, the teams that stay good, have distributed that money well. And the Aaron Rodgers, the way that he structured his contract, the Packers aren't able to do that. So I honestly think that was a direct jab at him, and because of that contract, they're not going to be able to trade him even if he demands one. Yeah, but you could say that all about Rodgers, Yeah, but the Chiefs also were resigned to not winning at all. Without Mahomes, the Packers have a short window with Rodgers left, and he needs help immediately. And I think Jordan Love is a nice quarterback. I think he has a high upside. I think a lot of those things, and maybe some of the things that I didn't see about Patrick Mahomes because all the interceptions. He was a guy I was wrong about, right? So it's like maybe those same things happen with Jordan Love, and Rod loves him. Rod is Rod's number one guy of the whole draft. Like if he could add any guy, that was the guy he said was the guy. And it's like I see it. I see it when you see the highlights of throwing and making these throws and it's these tight windows and, just Mahomes type stuff. I see it. But you have a decision to make because you only have a 3 to 4 year window with the teams that you have these days. You pick Jordan Love. That basically means that in the next 3 to 4 years, Aaron Rodgers has to go if you're going to stick with this pick. Because the windows are short now in the NFL. So I don't think that, I don't think
He might go sooner.
I don't think he puts you closer to. So you finished with the second best record in the NFC. If the Seahawks beat the 49ers on the last Sunday night game of the year, you have the home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I don't think Jordan Love puts you closer to going to the Super Bowl. I just don't. This year. I think, maybe in the future, and maybe, for the next 10 years, you have a playoff team. But there's going to be other guys. There always is. Mitch Trubisky was that guy, and, Carson Wentz was the guy, and, Kyle Bowler was the guy, and Ryan Leaf was the guy. And believe me, there's been a lot of the guys out there, And I don't think Jordan Love is a once-in-a-lifetime.
That's why I was surprised he went there.
I was wrong about Mahomes. So, when they traded up to take Mahomes, I was wrong there. I liked Deshaun Watson, right? He was my guy that year. I liked Deshaun Watson. I hated all the other picks ahead of him. Loved Deshaun Watson. They traded up, took Mahomes ahead of him. So be it. All right, Chris, let's talk soon.
All right, so just to recap yesterday, the Colts beat the Texans outright 27-23. The Bills covered against the 49ers, but still lost 27-26. The Patriots and Packers were voided because of a roster issue on the game. And
it was this Jordan Love pick. Rodgers refused to walk out onto the video game field.
And the nightcap,
Pittsburgh didn't even show up.
Yeah, the nightcap, the Broncos, Steelers 41-13.
Blowout by the Broncos.
So today, 3 Eastern, Steelers at Bengals. Steelers minus 8.5, over under 50.
What Steelers where? At Bengals?
Bengals plus 8.
At Bengals, yeah.
Bengals plus 8.5. Steelers are on the back. They're tired,
Celebrating the Josh Jones pick today.
Our Steelers.
Higgins, who was my pick.
Yeah, I'll go Steelers on a bounce back.
Bounce back from yesterday's crushing.
Yeah, bounce back. I think they took it in the locker room. I think they'll bounce back here.
I mean, here's Tua. They're showing the Tua highlights. He's throwing with all day in the pocket to wide open receivers. I mean, I don't know. It's like, what does this tell you?
7 o'clock Eastern, Packers at Browns. Packers minus 3.5. Over under 57.5.
Who's at the Packers?
Packers at Browns.
I got the Browns.
Here. I'm going to take the Browns.
The Browns are probably good at this game because they had pretty high expectations.
Yeah.
How's Odell Beckham at this game?
I think he's like a 90 or 91 overall.
And how about Nick Chubb?
Yeah.
He must be a
92.
Yeah.
And Nick Chubb's the highest offensive skill player on the team.
Yeah, so. I would bet. Love Chubb.
And
he went after him. Loved. I couldn't believe they took Michelle over Chubb. But I thought the Sonny Michel pick was good, but I thought Chubb was the better back.
Yeah.
Sonny Michel was kind of like the other guy.
Yeah. The 10 o'clock Eastern game, Raiders at the Cardinals. Raiders minus 1.5, over under 56.
Cardinals, money line.
I like the over here.
All right. I'll be back at 7 o'clock Eastern time if the guys want to join me. They'll be more than welcome. I'll hit them up on the thing. If they want to come and go, they can. Yesterday we made it about 2.5 hours into the draft. Probably do about the same today, 2.5, 3 hours. But today you have to remember the picks happen quickly. It's not like using the full 15 minutes allotted to take Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
The Bengals have, and also I'm going to guess that the tech is probably going to be a little better today too. After day one, we could have done this, we could have done this. I'm going to guess the tech will be better to make that communication lines quicker as well. And I'm going to guess Isaiah Wilson's mother has got the girlfriend off of him ahead of time.
Safe assumption.
Hey, Isaiah Wilson's girlfriend, stay off Isaiah. Cameras are on.
Yeah, she's like, stop it, the camera's wrong.
I thought, like I said, Cesar Ruiz definitely the most emotional moment, and the Isaiah Wilson definitely one that he'll never forget. Anyways, I'll see you guys later on. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in just a few hours, about 7 hours.
You got it. Bye.